And Egypt has a new prime minister after the man appointed by former President Hosni Mubarak resigned. Essam Sharaf has been selected by the country's military rulers to form a new cabinet and lead the government back to civilian rule. Back to Libya, protesters are vowing to take their fight to the capital, Tripoli, which is, of course, a Gaddafi stronghold. AlJazeera's Anita McNaught was allowed limited access by the Libyan government to film this report in Tripoli.
Libyan authorities, keen to demonstrate that Tripoli is not a war zone, invited our Al Jazeera crew onto a helicopter usually reserved for tracking illegal migrants from Africa. Declaring no areas in Tripoli off limits for this flight, our government escort showed us the former People's Assembly building, burnt over a week ago in an early morning riot that has, so far, not been repeated. Across the city on the day we flew, no street battles, no riot police, and in Libya's equivalent of Tahrir Square, Green Square, just a small government-sponsored gathering provides free entertainment around the clock. Whatever the previous inroads made into the city by the rebels, Tripoli is now a quiet place. But the damage has been done. Tripoli is also paralyzed from the loss of the people who used to work here. The port is at a standstill. Workers, skilled and unskilled, have fled. And nearby, crowds are still gathering on the docks to board a boat to take them away. At street level in the district of Tajura, this mobile phone company office is still smouldering after it was torched during the anti-Gaddafi protests. Along the entire street, anti-Gaddafi slogans have been painted over, but the shops remain shut. But Muammar Gaddafi's son, Saiful Islam, says there's no reason for concern.
Come on, if they have 2 fires in one house or 2 buildings, maybe, of course, maybe 100 fires. Does it mean that there is everything is collapsed?
Saiful Islam also says that migrant workers are already asking to come back. But at Tripoli airport, no signs that these hundreds of Egyptians camped in squalor are changing their minds about wanting to leave. Anita McNaught, Al Jazeera, Tripoli.
Ahmed Shabani is a businessman who recently fled Tripoli. He says that the government crackdown in the capital is stifling opposition forces.
Who in their right mind would go out on the street to get shot? The only way you can leave the streets, and I had to do the same when I was there, is to go anywhere on the streets. We had to wear a green flag on our arm or around our neck, or tape a picture of Gaddafi on the car and honk, so we're in support of Gaddafi, so we wouldn't get shot at by mercenaries and anybody that supports Gaddafi loyalists. There was a few protests in between the period of the time I left, which is the 24th of February, and now, and they would just wipe them out with gunfire, and they would bring in people that you know, girls and young boys and women to chant Gaddafi slogans.
Now to Yemen, where a senior government official has said that President Ali Abdullah Saleh is expected to respond positively to an opposition roadmap outlining steps for him to relinquish power. The 5-point plan was proposed by some opposition parties, but as Hashim Al-Halbara reports, other groups in the country say that they're no longer interested in talking.
The roadmap is ready, but where will it lead? After spelling out their vision for a future without President Saleh, Yemen's main opposition parties say there's little point in any further talks with the nation's veteran leader.
People on the street should have the final say on the political change in this country, but there needs to be an option that avoids anarchy. That's the role of the political parties, but we shouldn't be disconnected from the people.
The president, though, remains defiant. He insists that if he leaves office early, a power struggle will be unavoidable.
Because this country have got a lot of things which are different from any other scenario. We have got Southerners who have been asking for secession. We've got the Houthis who are asking for different ideas and views, perhaps a sort of local government with full power. You have got Al-Qaeda. So we have got to have a clear, perspective of what change we're aiming at.
And that clarity isn't easy to achieve.
The Yemeni Socialist Party has its constituency mostly in the south, and the South is under tremendous repressive pressure. So that is not conducive to YSP participating in dialogue. But the presence of Salafi extremists in the dialogue, I think, has alarmed another party, Al-Haq party, and it's causing additional complications in the dialogue.
In the capital, anti-government protesters celebrated an army officer who joined their demonstration, and they say their fight will go on regardless of the political confusion. Back to square one. The protesters and the opposition are planning mass rallies on Friday to put more pressure on President Saleh to step aside. They want to bid him farewell, and that, they say, can't wait for another 2 years. Hashim Al-Barra, AlJazeera, Sana'a.
Now, rising food prices have been one of the triggers for much of the recent unrest in the Middle East. And the UN's food agency is warning that food prices have risen to their highest ever since records began over 20 years ago. The Food and Agriculture Organization says that its food price index rose by 2.2% last month. The price hikes are being driven by the increasing costs of cereals, meats and dairy products. Sugar was the only food that didn't record an increase. It's now feared that an oil spike caused by the situation in Libya could further exacerbate the problem. Well, Caroline Herford is a spokesperson for the World Food Programme. She says that the food crisis will have profound and long-lasting implications in the developing world.
It's a whole complex of factors, in fact, where it's a kind of unholy trinity, if you like. We've got high food prices, we've got emergency weather events, and we've got political instability. And where these intersect is really where they hit the vulnerable poor. Clearly, when you're very poor and you are spending up to 80% of your income on food, then you're having to buy less nutritious food. This is a worry to us, of course, because it affects the nutrition of every household. But equally, you may not be spending as much on your medical necessities or on perhaps schooling and so on. And this is a matter of great concern, clearly.
A court in Pakistan has ruled that a CIA contractor accused of murder will not enjoy diplomatic immunity. Raymond Davis claims that he acted in self-defense when he shot at the two Pakistani men. His detention has strained relations between the US and Pakistan. Well, our correspondent Kamal Haider has been following the case from Islamabad.
Davis was said to have been, on the day of the incident, Davis is said to have been riding in a private car. It was not registered in the name of the embassy, at which point he says somebody tried to rob him. The Pakistanis, of course, saying that the circumstances were very different, that the people never pulled out the gun. That, of course, is the police reports. But there were a lot of witnesses. This happened in a very busy area of Lahore, and therefore the public outcry became a real problem for the government, because on the one hand, it was the relationship with the United States. On the other hand, it was the backlash from the public. So the Raymond Davis case has, of course, received a lot of attention, a media hype. It's very difficult.